Me? There you go. Because this panel is so important because of the panelists, as a coral biologist, I'm going to let the panelists drive this panel because it is such an important panel. So I want to start by bringing up our four panelists, starting with Joseph Abruzzo, the County Administrator for Palm Beach County. Please welcome Joseph. And then Monica Sepero, from the County Administrator from Broward County. Broward has a lot of employees, I think. Joseph, I think you got to work on that. Rhonda Haig, Rhonda, Chief Resilience Officer from Monroe County. And lastly, Jimmy Morales, Chief Operations Officer from Miami-Dade County. Oh, Miami in the house, I think, too.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today.
You want us all next to each other?
Whichever order you guys want. I'm going to sit off to the side.
Right.
So, because what you guys do is critically important to the Climate Compact, we've prepared our four questions. Mm-hmm. And we want to understand what your guys' strategic vision is for the future of your communities and how you're planning for resilient environments and resilient communities and how you're looking at spending. So I'm going to start off with the first question of four, which is, you're all aware of the enormous costs on the horizon that will be required to improve community infrastructure in response to rising heat, flood risk, and housing needs. Given the reality of this unquestionable and urgent need, coupled with the severe financial constraints of today's fiscal environment, how do you foresee managing these two competing responsibilities? And Joseph, I'd like to start with you first.
Thank you. First and foremost, I cannot thank you enough for having me on this panel with the esteemed panelists today from our sister counties. I do have to recognize Commissioner Greg Weiss, who is one of our advocates and true leaders when it comes to environment in Palm Beach County. And I couldn't agree more. We have to get more, no, please. We have to get some more employees, but we have tremendous employees here. I have to give a shout out to Patrick Rudder, and under him, he's Deputy Administrator, and I'll be brief and I'll get into the question. Megan Houston, we all know. Megan, this wouldn't be happening without her. And Deb Drum from ERM. You know, we just completed our vulnerability assessment. And what we know here in Palm Beach County, flooding is a severe risk. We thank God for some state funding. We have millions of dollars that are going to hardening infrastructure, making sure that our roads, our bridges, that our infrastructure is in place to combat the rising sea levels and the flooding issues in Palm Beach County. When I take a look at the map 2050, which there's multiple versions out, but it's not only some of you environmental groups, but there's government agencies that have officially sanctioned the maps. And it's all pretty consistent that those our sisters in the South are going to be facing some tremendous challenges, which will eventually creep up right here to Palm Beach County. And it's not only flooding, it's the water table and saltwater intrusion that we are really going to have to face. So when it comes to water treatment, roads and bridges, our hardcore infrastructure, we are taking steps on both when we refurbish and new construction that we're taking into effect all these variables. And that's, as the new county administrator, is where I'm headed. When we see development coming, my primary goal is that we absolutely stay on top of what we see, especially with flooding. And that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Monica, do you want to take it next?
Sure. So welcome, everyone. And next year we get to say welcome in Broward. So Joe, thanks for being the host this year. And welcome to the madness of being an administrator. It's a lot of fun. Buckle up, my friend. Buckle up. So you know, in Broward, you know, we've been you know, as you know, really engaged in this space for a long time with our partners here. But in Broward, you know, we've taken it an additional step with the municipalities. and we have started to leverage some of the dollars that Joe was referencing also at the state level and federal. But really we recently completed kind of a resilience plan. And, I had to sit back in my chair when Dr. Gerardo told me the price tag because I almost fell over. It was $28 billion of the infrastructure improvements and that we needed to build out. But it wasn't just Broward County. We're only about a third of that cost. But then when you start, peeling the onion layers out, you're looking at, with municipalities as well. So, with the budget, restraints and challenges that we've got, and there's no secret, we're heavily dependent in this space of discussion on ad valorem revenues. So that's always a challenge, but we've always put our money where our mouth is in Broward, and our board has been extremely, extremely supportive. We've got a couple of champions here. I know Commissioner Furr, our immediate past mayor, thank you so much for being a leader in this space. I know, yeah, thank you. And so many more. I know we've got a couple of our city electeds here as well from Broward, so welcome everyone. Adelma and Carol, I think I saw you from afar earlier. But also Senator Rich on our commission has also been a tremendous leader in this space. So what we did in this last budget is we started chipping away at that plan. Because no matter how restrained the resources might be, it's imperative that we make even baby steps, that we take these steps because they're strategic and intentional. So leveraging our partnerships with municipalities, we're tackling in this year's budget 4 crucial culvert projects that were imperative in that bigger plan. So we're just taking baby steps this first year because we started tightening our belts this past year. In fact, the budget had a lot of constraints and reduction of positions and things like that. We also had a new constitutional officer that had some other challenges. But even with all those challenges, the board, their priority is to continue the forward progress. So.
I'm going to let Joe circle back quickly. Jimmy, I promise you and Rhonda will get to you in a second.
No, thank you. I wanted to mention an important point. We recently had some studies and surveys, and 20% of our residents indicated that heat was the most significant factor in their lives. We have communities far out west by Lake Okeechobee, the Glades. They have a severe lack of shading. So I didn't want to point out one thing that we are doing with our Parks and Rec department. We are teaming up with so many groups, and some of you might be here, planting trees. 1,500 trees are going to be coming online to Palm Beach County, and that's really a triple win because not only does it provide the shade, but it also allows water mitigation during flood season, and then of course the carbon footprint. So we are very active, and it's low cost, and it has such a significant impact. So I did want to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here again. My first of these conferences, summits, was actually 2013, so I go back beyond 10 years. I was city manager of Miami Beach, and we actually hosted it that year. So it's great, and I can't look forward to, as the mayor said, when we can host it again in Miami-Dade. As part of this question, you talk about the fiscal challenge, right? So the mayor, she got elected 5 years ago. Into the next year, when we had a change of administration in Washington, the infrastructure bill, all that kind of stuff, and also, as she mentioned, the dollars coming out of Tallahassee, she actually directed me and others to put together a dedicated group of directors, people from OMB and whatnot, that met every 2 weeks. We went through every NOFO. We, sat in on seminars, the panels that are done out of Washington, NACO, you name it. And we just aggressively hunted for state, federal, nonprofit, whatever. And I think we've pulled in close to $2 billion over that period of time. And to try to understanding that we just didn't have enough money on our own. We had to identify grant funding, and the commission was very supportive of that. But we really were very aggressive in trying to leverage. And mentioning the municipalities, we got them involved as well because often their own stormwater systems or whatnot, and we provided technical assistance. So in addition to all the other stuff, we decided we wanted to be really good at trying to get that money. And rereading the applications and whatnot. And I think we've continued that. I mean, every 2 weeks we continue to meet, even though the infrastructure bill and some of that stuff's gone, but there are always other sources. Raise is now build, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're still chasing those dollars, and if we have to now change the terms we use to be, we'll do that, because at the end of the day, I think the goals are still the same. Whether people want to say it's about resilience or stopping flooding, I'll take the dollars either way, right? So.
Yeah, a change in name still
result
means
is
the
the same.
funding's there.
Yeah.
Rhonda?
Sure. So I want to apologize first on behalf of our mayor and county administrator and some of our other elected officials. They all had to fly to Tallahassee yesterday for a meeting with the cabinet, and so that does take priority over here. Anyway, so you heard the other Rhonda, yes. You heard the other Rhonda talk yesterday about our road elevation projects that we have planned for 97 neighborhood road elevation projects that probably total $5 billion now instead of the $2 billion it was 4 years ago. And you heard me talk about how we have $250 million in state and federal grant funds for 3 projects, leaving 92 others to go. Well, grants don't fund everything, and thus we do have $250 million in state and federal funds to fund 3 road elevation projects in 3 neighborhoods. But the county, we're a very small county compared to my 3 neighbors here, and we don't have a lot of money. And so we're going to try a new program here where we're going to get the residents more involved in helping us fund those programs. So the first pilot project that we have, Twin Lakes, the county had to put in $10 million worth of that, and we did hear for some kickback from some of the residents and businesses that, hey, we don't want county funds, regular county funds going into these road elevation projects because they benefit just a few residents in like one neighborhood. So what we're going to do now is we're working on an ordinance I'm going to take to our commission in January where residents, they'll be able to hop ahead and say, hey, we want a road elevation project or a road adaptation project ahead of time. County will work with you, work with them on getting grants, but then if there is any differential between the amount of grant funds we have available and what the actual bid prices come in, then we're going to look at having the residents fund that. So the county would pay the upfront project costs up front and then charge back the whatever the difference was in any capital cost back to the residents under a capital assessment over like a 20-year period. And we're also asking residents, as we always have in any type of projects, they will also fund the operations and maintenance. So what this does is it lets projects move forward as they can. It avoids countywide tax increases to pay for individual neighborhood projects. And so we're going to see how this works. And so it's not just for road elevation projects, that they want any other type of improvements like streets or lighting, sidewalks, anything like that. They can now come to the county and request a new project ahead of time. And that's something we want to work with. The county will fund it, but then we're going to charge it back through an assessment. So it's going to be interesting.
Thank you. So the second question is, this year's panel theme is about operationalizing climate resilience. So I want to invite each of you to share your thoughts on your organization, how you've worked to deepen resilient initiatives across the organization, and what did this involve, and what are the benefits. And so we're going to start with Monica on this one.
All right, great, thanks. So, this year we took on something called, an organizational resilience strategy, and the development of that within our organization. So what we did is, of course, Dr. Gerardo was leading the charge here, but it is an amazing opportunity that we now have a cross-section of the entire enterprise of Broward County. We have 65 different lines of business within the county, and so within each of the major disciplines, there's representatives that sit on a steering committee, if you will. And so what we're doing is we've engaged with every single department, even things that you don't necessarily think. Parks is an obvious one, right? Because outdoors and whatnot, but even to the level of the medical examiner. So, what we're seeing is, it touches every single discipline. Because when you're talking of like the trifecta, right? You got heat, you got the hurricane, dynamic, and then you've got the water flooding issues. So we look at it from every single perspective, and we have the steering committee that meets regularly, and then what we'll do is look at not just from projects, because that's kind of an easy one, but we run all of our capital improvement projects through a resilience test, if you will, and it goes through our department. That handles that. But but it gives a unique opportunity to have all of these experts from each of the disciplines within the enterprise to sit across the table and to collaborate, to challenge each other, and to talk about the things that within their own departments are real issues, and how can we as a collective start tackling some of these big issues. So this steering committee advises my office at County Administration on everything from the capital project perspective, but also policy issues that we will ultimately bring to the commission to make recommendations for their ultimate policy setting direction. Two recent examples I'll just say that have been really successful. So everyone knows Public Works, what they do, intuitively, right? And everyone knows what Resilient Environment does, right? Well, we had an opportunity to kind of look at, there's a lot of synergies between those two agencies. Now, when I put them together, because that was part of the recommendations of as we thought through, how can we be more efficient? How can we better serve not just our internal departments, but to the community? So we had an opportunity to reevaluate, and I combined those two departments. Now we have like a behemoth department, but it's the Public Works and Environmental Services Department. And so what we're getting to do is leverage each other's professional backgrounds and to look at all of those things within one department. So we're not crossing over departments. And you'd think that within a big, massive enterprise, there's not silos. But since I've been administrator, I've been with Broward County for a little over 17 and a half years. But since I've been administrator now already almost 4 years, that's one of the things I've really been working on is the collaboration, not just we like to call ourselves Collaboration County, but we're really reaching out to municipalities, the business community, nonprofits. We're including everybody in all of the dynamics of what we call the massive enterprise of county government. But we're doing that internally as well, because it's easy to just kind of look in your lane and just this is what I'm responsible for. But it's important that we do it across all of the enterprises. So the combination of the department was a really big one. And then we've got this Resilience Roadshow. I was trying to look at the name. I forgot what we called it. But the Resilience Roadshow, and that's where I was talking about the trifecta. It's the heat, the hurricane, and the wet season. And so that's where I've got like my emergency manager and that whole department, a medical examiner, resilience aspect, human services, every single aspect, because all of these things also affect the homeless population, right?
Yep.
So we have to be looking out for every segment and every corner of our community. So I'll stop talking to give my colleagues some chance to.
Jimmy, let me hear you next.
Well, Monica's right about the challenge of silos. And, the mayor, as she indicated when she spoke, when she got elected, she added a lot of capacity to the existing Office of Resiliency, bringing in a lot of top professionals. Many of them are here today with me. But within a couple of years, she acknowledged that the silo effect meant that, to some degree, the departments, didn't, while they were receptive to resiliency, weren't necessarily thinking about it daily as they were doing. So she wanted to figure out, how do I put that DNA into each department? And she began a little over a year ago embedding in different departments some of that professional staff that was over at Office of Resiliency. I think I want to make sure I have the exhaustive list here, but key staff were moved to aviation, water sewer, solid waste, real estate and development, fleet management, capital improvement project planning. Just to give you an example, we have Patricia Gomez, who was our chief energy officer and a real expert in that area, was moved over to the airport. Airport uses a lot of energy. And there were some significant projects that now she's working on. We are replacing the entire roof on the airport. And as part of that, we are going to put solar panels all over it. So she's working on that project. We have a hardening project because the vulnerability of energy, losses and whatnot, particularly in our environment. And so she's working with FP&L and the airport to also make those energy sources, whether they be solar or whatnot, in terms of our hardening, but in a resilient fashion. So the airport now has built into it. You know, we hired, Solid Waste hired a young man, Nick, I don't think he's here today, who had been the Chief Resiliency Officer for the University of Alabama in Birmingham, brought him down so that our Solid Waste Department could internalize that, and that's why when the mayor mentioned we're working on a zero waste master plan, that Nick is working on that, not as in the Office of Resiliency, in the Solid Waste Department. So we are operationalizing it to the best we can, and that was part of our vision, her vision, and a year later, it's working pretty well.
Maybe go to Rhonda and then circle back to Joe.
Sure. So unlike our big neighbors, we're small in the county, we have small staff. So I'm like a one-person department, and when we have these big needs for resilience, these $2, $3, $4 billion in road elevation, so we all get together regularly in the county, and like for our grant applications for any type of resilience projects, whether it's roads or parks or anything else, we plan a year or two in advance. We work with the other departments because there's competing priorities sometimes between resilience and some of the other major things that we need. And so we plan in advance. We figure out what we're going to do. We go while it getting's good, especially with the Resilient Florida Grant Program. And so we try to get in as much as we can while still meeting our core basic services. So it's really been interesting at the county. We don't have silos there because we're so small, and so we work very closely together.
Nice. Joe?
Thank you. I couldn't agree with my colleagues more. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on the silos, but that is definitely an issue, not only here, but across the table. And when it comes to resilience, in my strong opinion, it's changing the mindset from a special project to standard operating procedures. The more we move that train down the track, it becomes automatic. So that's one thing that I've empowered our incredible staff to do. But I want to give two specific examples. First of all, we are integrating resilience into our capital planning. Any project in Palm Beach County that has over 500,000 variable, we are identifying known vulnerabilities, whether it's heat, flooding, SLR. That has to be taken into account when we look at those projects at the staff level, and that is very important. We are drafting a new comprehensive plan with the leadership of our board, and in that, there will be provisions that make it very clear for developers and give them certainty on how we're looking at resilience and other aspects. So we are tackling two big issues that will definitely have an impact on how we handle this down the road.
Perfect. Okay, this one's going to be for you first, Rhonda. The Compact as a region is widely recognized as a model for regional collaboration, leadership, coordination, and coordinated action to share resilience challenges. We heard earlier in the year in review that to date the regions account for nearly 60%, I believe, is that the right number, of Resilient Florida Infrastructure Grant awards since the program launched only 4 years ago. So from your perspective, beyond these grants, how else does the cohesion of the compact benefit the partner counties and local governments?
Sure. So the compact, I've been there a long time, not quite from year one, I think from year two, working with Dr. Gerardo and Lauren and many others, and it's made all the difference for Monroe. As a small county, we would never have had the opportunity. We wouldn't be up there with $250 million in grant awards without the compact and how they developed the regional action plan. I'm looking at Lauren here, and it's just very informative, help us with our plans and development of our plans and how we pick projects to move forward. I'm a big projects person, and without the compact, we wouldn't, Dr. Gerardo, and just educating us and informing us and helping us learn about climate change and what that means to, especially like a vulnerable county like Monroe, and how you not, put your head in the sand, how you don't want to do that, and how you move forward and focus on what you need to do and what your climate initiatives are and your resilient initiatives are. And that's why we've been so successful, because we've had an organization like the Compact, everybody working so closely together. We're really a really close-knit team, and it's been very just informational for me and guiding our projects, and that's why we've been so successful. On our own, we wouldn't have been able to do nearly as much without the Compact support and the opportunities that they've provided us.
Thank you. We're gonna come back this way. Jimmy, do you want to go next?
Yeah, obviously among the things Data sharing, for example, I mean, I think the information that comes out of here, I know when I was city manager of Miami Beach, we incorporated the compact forecasts on sea level rise and flooding into our flood master plan. And I know 2 or 3 years ago, I think at the county, under the mayor's leadership, we did the same thing. So, obviously that informs now, whether at a municipal level or a county level, how we're responding to these issues. And I think that's obviously the collective knowledge here. I also think, I call it maybe like a proof of concept. Because we have these relationships, I think we watch very carefully what is going on in our neighboring counties. We're looking very closely to see how your road raising and how that works. We did a lot of that at Miami Beach, but the county hasn't necessarily done that, and I think we're looking to see how that goes. I can tell you that after the rain bombs that hit, we read very carefully the great report put together by Jennifer on the after action plan and whatnot, and you began to use that. Out of that, we formed our own sort of flood task force, looking at what our peers are doing. So I think learning from each other, sharing information, I think has been, for us, very valuable.
Monica?
Yeah, so again, thanks, Jimmy and Rhonda. I'll tell you, it has been invaluable, and it looks like we're a collegial group because we are, and we pick up the phone, we'll text each other, hey, how are you handling this? You have a couple minutes for a call. So we really do have that engagement, and the minute Joe took his seat, we started with that as well. So we are closely collaborating and communicating, and that's really important. I'll tell you, a tangible put your money where your mouth is kind of moment for us has been, for the group here, we're all like preaching to the choir. Everyone in this room, we are all, true believers that this really matters and it works and it's important. But for the folks that might not be, the first ones in the doors here, where it's made such an impact for us is in that bond validation process. When we go out to issue bonds, we now have questions about climate, okay? Who would have thought that would happen? Thank God it has. But when we've started getting those questions, guess who's really prepared? All of us. Because now we have this compact to be able to reference. We've got the ability to point to tangible data and activity and impacts that we've all experienced. So during those bond issuances, when we're having those conversations, and not just in the questionnaires, but when we're defending in front of the rating agencies, we've had to go out for issuances of late for the port and our convention center and the hotel, which I'm going to do shameless plug. So tomorrow we get the ribbon cutting for our long-awaited hotel. So yeah, super exciting. So that's, I just can't even begin to tell you how excited I am. You see us huddling in the corner because there's, with any big project, there's always a few last-minute things that I want to make sure when we cut that ribbon, we're open for business, literally. We start inviting guests in and make sure we have all the approvals. So, but that made a significant impact on how much that money is costing the county, how much that money is going to cost in the bond issuances, because when you have, we're fortunate to be, I think only 40-something counties in the entire country out of like over 4,132, I think is the number. Someone will fact check me in a minute, but it's over 4,100 counties in the country. There's only about 40 counties, 45 counties in the whole country that have a AAA bond rating. So those things matter because it'll cost you less over the long run for these projects and these initiatives. So for us, this climate summit and this compact has made a significant impact financially to our benefit of the residents of Broward County and South Florida. So when you get a chance, come to see our hotel and the expansion of the convention center, which is now open. And so when we host next year, you will see it up close and personal, but it is breathtaking and spectacular, and we can't wait to bring another amazing asset. And by the way, both the expansion of our convention center and the hotel, which is about a $1.3 billion project in its entirety, both major projects LEED Gold certified. So we're looking constantly at ways to incorporate, the resilience concept into every aspect of what we do.
So you're going to give us a discount on the climate summit next year?
Well, if you come, and you will get a group rate, just like we do with all of our valued guests. But yes, we do have government rate as well. So, so some of you will qualify for that.
And we're committing Jimmy to the following year, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to have a new hotel at our convention center in 2 years. So
All right.
we'll host then.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Joe stepped up this year, so Joe, do you want to take the...
I have to now. First off, it is a true pleasure to work with Monica. We speak frequently, and to be our exact neighbor county, and in listening to you, we have so many similarities. We also stand as a AAA bond rating due to the leadership of our Board of County Commissioners, which she alluded to. When we do go out for projects, especially in environment, it costs our taxpayers less to bond those projects to get that capital so we can move. So that's something that our board is extremely protective of, that we maintain money in reserves, and we're doing everything right, regardless of what's imposed on us by the state, that we keep that AAA bond rating. And I have to plug our convention center. We are going to be going through phases of expanding our convention center. The board is looking as we speak at a proposal for more hotel rooms and an additional hotel. So I think you're going to see in our region, from what I'm hearing from my colleagues from Miami-Dade up, more convention space, more hotel rooms. But the great news is we're not really competing with one another because of the flux of demand that is coming to South Florida. There's more than enough to go around. So we're not even in we're not in competition whatsoever. We're true governmental partners, and we're working together best at hand. To get back on the resilience topic, I did want to point out that Palm Beach County is a true recognized leader in restoration, improvement, and expanding programs in resiliency, especially on natural-based coastline, on our coastline waterways. We have, as I know my partners do too, one of the largest, or we're part of actually the largest reef infrastructure in the continental United States, which is the first line of defense when it comes to our storms. And we are constantly, our county departments, monitoring that health to make sure if there's an issue that we're addressing it, we're on top of it, and we're letting our governmental partners, both at the state and federal level, know that there's issues. We are out planting new coral. That's something we do right at the county. And I just wanted to bring up our county system that our board oversees is 14 beaches, dunes, inlets, really 47 miles of coastline. We have the Lake Worth Lagoon that I personally, one of the first things I did when I became administrator, I went out with Deb Drum. We looked at the 250 acres of mangroves planted, which obviously impacts our flood control, water quality, and infrastructure. I did want to bring out one of our incredible facilities, Green Cay, which is out in West Boynton Beach. We're about to open up phase 2, and that truly helps supplement some of our water quality. It's 63 acres of quality wetlands, and it is also coexists as a place for our residents to go for hiking trails, truly enjoy the natural resource. So we turned into, and I have to give a shout out to our Chief Deputy Administrator, Todd Von Laren. I know many of you probably know him. Green Cay, I truly believe, because I know how that land came compiled together, and it was through a relationship through him. It wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Todd Von Laren, so I wanted to give him a shout out on that. Thank you.
I love Green Cay. If you haven't been there, that's a great plug. You should go.
Steve, can I give a fun fact real quick?
Yes.
We jump to everybody else. So when you're talking about the reefs, Joe, here's a fun fact. Again, I'm going to talk about the hotel. So, but this is right on point. So one of the restaurants in the brand new hotel that's opening tomorrow is called Reef 76, because since 1982, Broward County has put in 76 artificial reefs in Broward County. So it just shows you the depth of how the resilience mindset is right front and center. So There you go.
Awesome.
Go have dinner there one night.
Jimmy, Rhonda, no fun facts.
All I have to say is Monica's lucky Mayor James isn't here because he would have hit her with about 40 restaurants that opened in downtown West Palm.
Well, I don't know if we've planted any reefs, but my folks out there will tell me later. Wait, Lauren is shaking her head that we have. All right.
There you go.
There you go.
See, now, I can't moderate now
I'll take
because I'm
that
a
number.
sucker for reefs.
Now he just has to name a restaurant.
okay.
That. There you go.
So, Jimmy, I'm going to move you to the next question. You're going to be the first respondent to this one. So it says, given the unique environmental landscape of Florida and in Florida, how do you view resiliency within the context of preserving natural areas and the remaking of our developed areas to better integrate our green infrastructure? I guess like Green K. Further to this question, is it happening, and can the counties do more?
Yeah, I mean, we have been trying to, as we look at economic development issues, housing issues in the county, make sure that we're trying to do it in a responsible way. So for example, not only let's take septic to sewer. Not only is septic to sewer good for the environment. You know, we were chatting earlier that we have a little place in the Keys, and when Marathon went from septic to sewer, within 2 or 3 years, you saw the complete change in the water quality. Yeah. But septic to sewer is also important because in a lot of lower income communities, where businesses are struggling, you can't grow a business if you're on a septic tank because it's connection to the sewer which can create economic development. And so we have actually gone to places like Little River and other neighborhoods to help the neighbors and businesses get off a septic tank, have a more resilient, and they're also close to the bay. So we're serving that goal, but at the same time, creating economic opportunities that will help hopefully more affordable housing, better jobs in those communities. So, you can tie these projects, and that's an example of where we've tried to insert resiliency to address other critical goals in the community.
Nice. Joe, you're up next with this one.
I've answered a lot of it in my previous statement. So I want to use just a brief moment to discuss. The question is, how are we going to improve, I believe, or
Yeah.
harden? And I mentioned a lot that we're doing, but we are facing, and Monica brought it up briefly, a severe circumstance from the state. And the property tax debate, whatever's put on the ballot for you all to vote for, is going to severely impact our county budget. The most harsh proposal, which is House Joint Resolution 201, would literally eliminate the Board of County Commissioners' operating budget for 30-plus departments, including everything that we have to do with environment. We don't know if that will pass the state Senate. However, one of the bills that we're tracking that we believe has a decent chance, what our governmental affairs team, both internally and externally, are talking about, is one that will eliminate $148 million from our budget. So my job right now as county administrator, along with my colleagues, is getting ahead of that curve, truly seeing what that is going to look like for our departments. So when you ask the question, what does the future look like on improving, hardening, we talk a lot about the cuts, but it's also the progress to the future, because that can come to a screeching halt if those levels are thrust upon us and thrust upon our board to make those difficult decisions. So you're here at a really unprecedented time. We haven't seen something like this before, at least in my nearly 30 years here in Palm Beach County, where the state has always imposed unfunded mandates on us, but never to the level that they're going to eliminate county budgets, big thresholds of it. So to answer that question in fairness, we need to talk about it next year to really see what our budget looks like, what the will of the board is, and how we're going to handle this, because we do believe something's coming. We just don't know the severity of the impact.
Yeah. Monica, do you want to take that one next?
Sure. Just, at a higher, taking a step back, because everything you said, Joe, is spot on. I mean, that's, it's going to be a real reality, a challenge that we got to tackle. But so in Broward, what we've done is also we've looked at, these critical areas of heat maps and flood risk zones, and then we use those areas. We have zones that we've literally created to know where, like a heat map, and not just heat map in the traditional sense, but heat map for both heat as well as flooding, right, and vulnerabilities. And so that we use those areas, those zones, if you will, to prioritize our funding for some infrastructure, for environmental type and resilience infrastructure. So that's one of the ways that we look at the challenge when we're looking at how to invest and where, outside of within the confines of the resilience plan, but outside of the traditional, just we got all this projects in the CIP, the 5-year CIP. So that's something that we really we look at the prioritization within those zones, because you got to see how the intersection of hurricanes and then again the heat and the water, the flooding vulnerabilities, and how that all intersects, and so that it just how that literally impacts the landscape of what we've got. So that's just an area that we focus on.
Okay, Rhonda, do you want to finish up the question?
Sure. So I always have happy news. So in context of integrating green infrastructure, so Monroe County actually has our first 2 living shoreline projects out for bid right now. Woohoo! And there's all kind of cool stuff out there with these wave attenuation devices. I've been doing contracts for many, many years. I'm not going to tell you how long. But I had a pre-bid conference here about a week ago. There were 32 vendors on the line, all very interested in providing these living shoreline because there's so many different features in them. So one of them is going to protect our Long Key waste transfer station in the Upper Keys, and we're looking forward to that living shoreline. And the other is going to protect our Duck Key community island a little bit further south. So that's a breakwater repair, but also a living shoreline. So I didn't want to just put a breakwater back. We wanted to make it green infrastructure, and so we're adding a big piece of living shoreline to that too. So those bids open the 1st of January, and we'll see how we go. I'm really excited about them.
Nice.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So in the 14 minutes or so that we have left, right, Megan? Okay. We're getting to the close. And Joe, because you're our host, you get to go first. See? Value of hosting. So in closing, what do you all see as the greatest opportunity for regional collaboration of the compact in this year and moving forward?
Well, the good news is, from a government side, as you see from all of us, we're in constant communication, and not only us at the top level, but our department heads are constantly working together, and we're going to encourage that more. Can't wait to work with some of you. I've been county administrator for almost 4 months now, so I look forward to building relationships and getting to know some of my partners to the south even better. I will tell you that outside of government, some key areas that we must collaborate on is you, doctor, academia.
Yeah, true.
We need to really work with you, our departments. You have the research and development and the next generation of incredible minds that are going to change the world. And I don't mean to be corny by saying that, it's just the truth. So we've already been reaching out to FAU, and we're going to be highly engaged under my tenure, working with our wealth of knowledge at our university system. No, it's true. I personally believe that, and I say this as my former life as a state legislator, there's not a strong, or there's a slight divide between resilience in the business community. And we need to close that gap. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is communication and working together, because quite frankly, as we talk about the rising water tables, which severely going to impact Miami-Dade County first before it comes up potentially to Broward and Palm Beach County, they have one of the largest stakes in the game for the business community. So again, under my tenure, we're always going to be collaborating. You heard my comments about the comprehensive plan, business community. And then finally, the tech and AI discussions that are happening. That's not science fiction, that's the real deal. And it's going to be impacting every segment of our society. But I see incredible opportunity when it comes to resilience. Getting data and information that normally would take years or decades to compile within a very short time frame. That is going to help us make some incredible informed decisions at the governmental level that will impact all our residents. So we need to stay on top of the emerging technologies, not being afraid to implement it, and that at least in Palm Beach County, we will be doing that.
Thanks. We're happy
And
to
I just have to
collaborate.
say thank you all for coming to Palm Beach County. For those, if it's your first time here, I hope you feel how wonderful it is, like we all do. You're always welcome. Our board is so involved and dedicated on making this one of the premier places to live in the United States, live, work, and play. If you ever need anything, always reach out to us. Our door is always open. And again, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Rhonda, you're next, and maybe we'll move back this way.
Sure. So you've heard yesterday and today about the big competing needs of resiliency and how it's going to be so expensive. And we really need to stick together. There's bumps along the road no matter what we're doing. And very important for Monroe to stick with these other 3 counties and keep our priorities moving forward. And my most important priority as Chief Resilience Officer is keeping that Resilient Florida grant program funded every year. And I know there's always see these competing needs trying to pull the funds away, and we want to keep it going, because without that program and the way we've worked to help get that funding, there probably would be far fewer resilience projects in Monroe County for sure. And in the others, you saw earlier that we get like 40% of the funds, so it's important to keep working together legislatively and keep that pressure on Tallahassee to keep that program funded.
Excellent. Jimmy?
First of all, I want to put an exclamation point on Joe's comment about the existential threat of the property tax efforts in Tallahassee. A lot of people in the community don't understand, parts of our county governments are funded, the airport is self-sufficient, the seaport, all that stuff. Water sewer systems are a utility. But a lot of the stuff that we value, parks and recreation, that's all general fund.
Yep.
That's all property tax. Culture, community-based organizations. Libraries.
Environmental work.
I was going to say all the in support of our resiliency efforts. All of that comes out of the general, and heavy subsidy of transportation as well, at least in Miami-Dade County for sure. So all that, that's the stuff that's potentially going to go away. I do want to put a particular exclamation point on, and you talk about something this year that we can work on. For whatever reason, and this is not a political message, there seems to be almost an effort in, I'd say, Washington, Tallahassee, to not fund public transportation.
Yep.
A real focus on building roads and all this stuff, but not wanting to fund public transportation. And, particularly in South Florida, given our population numbers, our tourism numbers, there's no roads to be built. There's no more roads down in Monroe County. Public transportation, it's an equity issue as well, getting working people to work, but it's also an environmental resiliency issue. And Tri-Rail is obviously the fight to save Tri-Rail. 4.5 million people rode that last year, 4.5 million. If you closed it down, you have to add a lane to I-95 in each direction. Wow. How many cars burning gasoline?
And that won't be enough.
And probably still won't be enough. Yeah. So I do think we need to come together. I know in Central and North Florida, they want more roads. They want to widen I-75. But in South Florida, we don't have that. And we need to make sure folks in Tallahassee and Washington understand public transportation needs to be funded.
Yep.
Thank you. Monica?
So I think, Megan and Jennifer might have worked on your and my reminder talking points, because much of what I was going to share was also obviously the education sector and tech sector. So there's so much information out there, and the way that we have historically collected data doesn't need to be the way we do it in the future, and certainly sharing information with our partners. When we talk about the obvious thing for us is how we can collaborate more. Is next year we'll be in Broward for this, so we're going to need the help of all of the teams, all of your teams, to go through and make sure that we deliver a really great summit next year as well. But beyond that, it's you know, Jimmy, and I talked about it as well, I think we've all kind of hit on this property tax thing, but it's not just, you know, talking to, you know, the Broward people when I talk to them, and, you know, you're talking to Palm Beach, Miami, and Monroe, but it's all of us are ambassadors, right? And so when we're talking to our neighbor, because at the end of the day, we go home, we have neighbors, we have friends, and that are not necessarily our business colleagues. But it's important to remind everyone what might be at stake when we're talking about this conversation, because it's a real one, and it can have some significant impacts. So I think it's really about working together in every single thing, and making sure we're fighting the silo, you know, mindset or effect. I think at the top level we do a great job, and as you mentioned earlier, our departments and our like CROs, but also beyond Public Works. I mean, encourage our departments to reach out to our neighbors and have those conversations so that we're all on the same page. This year I'm the incoming president of the Florida Association of County Managers. So when I sit in those rooms and I hear the rest of the 66 counties, you know, in that group, you know, every county has unique needs. And most of the counties are not our size. Most of the counties are like 50,000 people, 100,000 people, or less, whole counties. So when you think about that, all counties are not necessarily, you know, I don't like to say the word equal, but the issues that they face are not the same ones that we face. And so it's important to have a voice everywhere we go, and that we're all in this together, and we're sharing the importance of the work that's being done, because together we are almost a third, I think it's about 28-30% of the entire state's population. And when you talked about live, learn, play, live, work, and play, did I say that right?
You did.
Because in Broward, the tagline we use is live, learn, work, and play. Mm-hmm. We're pulling in the education sector, and something that I feel that we've been doing really well, and Jennifer, Dr. Jurado's embedded in our business, some of our business groups at the Broward Workshop, it's called, and the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance, is the business sector. And that has to be integral, and it's got to be front and center of every conversation, because it's not just government like trying to pull people along. We got to have the business folks engaged and at the table, and that'll help universally with both the property tax conversation, which I'll talk to you guys offline, but also the cities, our municipal partners. There's over 411 cities in the state of Florida. So I'm working on the county side, but we're also engaging with the Florida League of Cities to make sure that all the cities and all the counties are saying the same thing, because the quality of life won't be something that people want to come and live and bring their businesses here. If they're driving down the roads are pretty crummy. Parks, you've got to close down libraries. We don't have the money to keep these things open, or let alone mow the grass, on the side of the road. It's not going to be visually a place that people want to come.
Yeah, Joe has a question for the audience.
If you wouldn't mind, if you live in Florida, if you're a Florida resident, can you raise your hand?
Yeah, everybody.
Excellent. So if I could just briefly expand on Monica and incredible remarks. So for those who may not understand the breadth, and I know you've been hearing about it a lot, what's occurred over the past year is we know our homeowners insurance has skyrocketed. And the governor made a decision to address the issue of property taxes. Now, what occurs, and I just want to simplify it, you have the state primarily runs off of state sales tax. Of course, we have no income tax, thank God, and then property insurance is what funds, property taxes is what funds local government. You cannot, if property taxes were eliminated, we would have to propose to our board alternative taxes so we could run and operate our government. And to simplify that, there's really only 3 areas that would have a big chunk. It would be an increased sales tax, so you'd be going from anywhere from 16 to 20% potentially on a sales tax. We would have to propose an increase on commercial property and non-homesteaded property, and we could dip into our reserves, which would affect the AAA bond rating that Monica and I addressed easily, or a combination, which would likely be of the 3. So we will still be, it's a tax shift. It's a complete tax shift if the governor's plan, House Joint Resolution 201, passed. And it would be severely detrimental. That is what's occurring. So it's not that your property taxes would be completely eliminated and you wouldn't be taxed anymore. You'd be going to the store and buying products, and what is this 20% sale, potentially? What is this 20% sales tax? If you're a renter, that cost will almost guaranteed be passed on to you by your landlord. So no one's getting out of paying taxes. It would be a severe shift. Now, let me say this. Tackling homeowners insurance. That is where, in my strong opinion, Tallahassee needs to focus. You can itemize your property taxes on your federal income. You could actually take a deduction on that. You can't do that for your property insurance. So what you're hearing from us and what you need to pass on to your neighbors, number one, as Monica said, if eliminated, our community changes. It's funny because the governor, and I commend him, he's out there, he's promoting for businesses to come here. He's holding press conferences right here in Palm Beach County, in the past 2 weeks. Come to Palm Beach County, but at the same time, as Monica stated, what attracts people here to our similar regions is our quality of life. As she mentioned, our parks, our beaches, our roads, our bridges, that's all intertwined. These are all the departments that will be hit. Fire rescue is not exempt under this plan. They have a massive hit, so that goes down to response time and public safety, health and wellness. So what we're saying is keep the standard of living the same, because this is what's making Florida the top destination in the entire United States. And please do not, or look at the full picture, don't automatically buy that your property taxes will be completely eliminated and you won't be paying taxes in other areas of your daily life, because that's simply not the case. If the governor's plan passed, we would literally not have a local government at any level.
I think that's a great call to action.
Yes, it
and
is.
Also
Tell your neighbors.
a great close. Thank you, Joe. Please join me in thanking our panelists. I'm sure Megan will tell me that I've run out of time. So one more round of applause for our panelists. Thank you all very much. Great job.
Thank you all so much. These are our bosses, so I would never call their panel to end before they were done. So let's just make that clear. And so appreciative of all of you speaking on behalf of resiliency. They have multiple competing priorities. County administration, such a hard job, and the fact that they're here spending time with us makes me feel great as a resilience lead, listening to them and just talk about the support that we have, the leadership that we have in our county administration. Let's just give them one more round of applause.